It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there's as many field bees, many scout bees coming into that observation hive as there are going out. In fact, there's more coming in than out, which is good. They've been out for a little while then. However, we have a storm coming, and we are due to get about 3.5 inches of rain in the next 24 hours or so. So the bees are not going to be getting much today. But I wanted to show you, before it gets knocked down with wind or anything like that, just how my backyard is coming along. This all used to be a lawn here, but there's a few asters that have grown up in the way. Just look at the color here. Absolutely beautiful. Really come along nicely. This part of the yard has turned out way better than I thought it might, or at least as good as I thought, to be honest. But they've come along really nicely, and the bees have been really enjoying it. Now this part has always, the grass has hardly ever grown here much. Very often, I mean, the leach field goes for the house goes in that area, but it's all very shallow, and because we had a lot of rain this year, things have grown really well. I wouldn't be surprised that in most years this wouldn't grow. But this area was really hard. I didn't really manage to get many seeds in the ground, so they didn't really sprout well, but there's still a lot of stuff coming up. I didn't plant things like the goldenrod here, but that's still coming up. But there's still a lot more plants that are coming in, which will be flowering soon. So this will still be looking pretty good. One thing I'm learning what to do. I don't have the tools, so I don't have equipment to turn up the lawn particularly well. So I had to just basically scratch in the seeds. And what I did in this nice line of very small sunflowers is basically I did a loop and went round and round and round and round, just tearing up the lawn there. And just planted some sunflowers. And this is the part that the chipmunks didn't eat, because I went in a loop, let's see, I went in a loop around here, over there, then came back around. You can see there's a few sunflowers there, but the chipmunks ate everything up along there because they were living in those trees and stuff. So they didn't do, not much came through over there. It was also shaded a bit, but then coming back down around here, it worked really well. And I didn't get this done until, say, mid-June. So what I'll be doing is next year, I'm going to scratch this up a lot more. In fact, I may even, well, I don't think anyone will let me put a big tarp out here to let me kill the grass just here. Maybe I'll be allowed to just before it snows. Because it wouldn't look good for a while, and it's visible to the road. But I really love this area to be more full of flowers next year. So what I'll just do is, from early spring, I'll start tearing up the lawn with that. I just got a little dethatcher to put on the back of the lawnmower, so I could just scrape and scrape and scrape. And if I don't wait until later and too late, then I might be able to do it before the grass really gets going. The more I can tear it up, the more likely I am to get some more seeds in the ground. But I'm really pleased with this. It looks great. Makes for some great cut flowers as well. So we've had some nice cut flowers here. Unfortunately, the wind and things are starting to blow them over, so it's past what was looking the best. Yeah, a lot of it's knocked down now. And of course that may also be critters coming in here, because I thought there was less upright here than there were. Yep, so we've got, maybe I should pick them. But I'm overall very, very pleased. It's some beautiful stuff in here. Hopefully a lot of it will seed. And when I mow it all down and sort of scratch it into the ground, maybe those seeds will take off next year as well. We'll see. At any rate, just a little bit of lawn that we never use as a lawn back here, so the bees are benefiting from it. I mean, it's a tiny scratch in the ocean, really. It's not a drop in the ocean, really. It's nothing compared to what the colonies need. But there is a great feel-good factor about planting a diversity of flowers in there and seeing the bees working it. So whilst it's not perfect, I like it better than a lawn anyway. And a lawn is probably the single biggest thing that folks can do with assets that they currently have. If you've got a lawn with grass on it, well, that's a desert for bees. But a lawn with a lot of flowers mixed in it and let it grow for a few months of the year, that can be a nice little boost of pollen. Now, if you only got 2 or 3 hives, this little bit of flowers might make a little bit of an impact. Now, I've got 40 hives out back here, so it's not going to make much of an impact, but it just shows what you can do with a small space there. And if I did it better, it could have been much more beneficial to the bees. And I think it looks great. So the bees won't get much done today. They've got about half an hour of flying time left before that rain starts setting in. And they currently have their mite treatments on, so there's not too much I can do. I could open feed a little bit, but I can't put food in my hive top feeders because I've got Formic Pro in there. And I didn't really understand why can't you use internal feeders when you've got Formic Pro in the hives. So I asked the folks at Nod Apiaries, my supplier in Canada, who supplies me with Formic Pro, and what they told me is that whilst there's no immediate signs of a problem, they had significantly poorer survivorship in hives that were fed internally with sugar syrup while Formic Pro was being applied. And the last thing I want to do is complicate matters for the bees making it through the winter. So apparently that is the cause. It made no sense to me, and they don't have a full understanding of what's going on. There's research being done on what's actually the cause of the mortality. But if you're using Formic Pro, do not feed your hives internally during that time. Maybe the formic acid and sugar does some sort of combination, and puts a long-term problem into the sugar syrup. But seems to be fine to open feed, but do not feed the hive internally with an entrance feeder. Obviously, you can't use an entrance feeder because you don't want to obstruct the airflow, and you don't want to use that internal feeders because evidently that will cause an increase in winter mortality. So it's only left with, while those treatments are on, to do a bit of open feeding, but that of course has its own problems. Open feeding can precipitate robbing. It can also cause the spread of disease by bringing bees from hives of all the surrounding area to those feeders in a communal way, which will potentially spread mites and disease. I know that I'm not really giving my neighbors a problem, but of course my neighbors could give me a problem if I do too much open feeding. So it's not necessarily the best way to go about it. But if you're in an area where you don't have many neighbors with bees in the surrounding couple of miles, then open feeding is probably the option that you want to consider if you're using during the time you're using the Formic Pro. Once that Formic Pro is subsided, then it should be fine. Anyway, Gonna get ready for the rain and take these two in before the rain comes. Right, girls? Ready to go in the house? Okay. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.